This will be the first running video, and we're going to go to a place called Greenfield. Actually, we are already here. It's just further along the way. I was actually planning to run in a place called Ultra. Actually, now it's known as the Philippine Sports Complex, but I just found out they only allow athletes in, national athletes. So there's no chance of me being able to run in that area. But it really doesn't matter. We really just need the ground and our legs. This, however, reminds me of a certain athlete. His name is Cliff Young, and we're going to talk about him a little further. In reality, you can actually run in any location, but I prefer to run where there's a little greenery in it, like this place, Greenfield District, or the Greenfield Park actually has a park. And it's kind of calming if there's a little nature. Now, of course, this is what I really prefer. After being stuck behind a computer for the past 8 hours, this is actually a relief. And of course, I enjoy it. That's also something you should take note when trying to have a little run or have a little exercise. It has to be something pleasurable. And we're going to talk about someone who's doing this for fun. Meet Cliff Young, also known as Albert Ernest Clifford Young, known as Cliffy by his close friends. He's a potato farmer that decided to join an ultra marathon. Ultra marathons are not easy. In fact, we're going to talk about the one of the most grueling ultra marathons in the world. It's called the Westfield Sydney to Melbourne Ultra Marathon. It has a distance of 875 kilometers, or sometimes 544 miles. That's quite a lot. Based on the name of that marathon, you can already tell that Cliff Young is an Australian. He may be a potato farmer, but he also handles sheep. And this will play a big part on the way he runs. When handling sheep, he goes from point A to point B wearing nothing more than gum boots, simply to protect the feet from getting wet. Gum boots may have played a big part in the way he runs. Later, it was found out that he has a certain gait that might be a very big advantage to him. More on that later. At the start of the race, everyone didn't take him seriously. He doesn't even have proper running attire. He was wearing baggy pants with holes in it for ventilation. Not to mention, his running shoes was simply given to him. At least he doesn't have to run in gum boots. The contestants usually will carbo load, that means eating a lot of carbohydrates, drink their energy gels, energy fluids. He relied on vegetables and water, sometimes a little bit of soup, and tea. Now, quite expectedly, when the race began, all the other competitors were ahead of him. They were definitely fast, and the way he ran was kinda slow. But that's not a disadvantage because we're going to find out later that it may have helped. Pretty soon, he was all alone running in the rear. And yes, he unfortunately was the last one in the pack. The other runners or contenders are already resting or sleeping. There is a mandatory 6-hour rest. However, Cliff decided to wake up at probably a little a little earlier than usual. He was planning to wake up at exactly 5:30. This did not work. On the next day, when he woke up, he decided to run and noticed everything was dark and he was kind of alone. When he ran, something was strange. He was alone for a long period of time. He was kind of thinking the other contenders are already far ahead, but he definitely was alone. Not to mention, the sun was not yet up. He woke up at 5 but noticed that there's still no sunrise. The sun should already be bright, especially if it already reached 6 o'clock. But it turns out it was still dark. The reason for this is because someone made a mistake. A member of his team mistakenly set the alarm for 2 rather than 5:30. And as a result, our hero simply just get up and go and started running. This gave Cliff Young a head start, and of course, he was in the lead. When the other runners woke up, they were surprised that someone was already leading them. They never realized it was that potato farmer that was leading them, the one that they sometimes scoff at, and of course, didn't even take heed earlier in the race. They did their best to catch up, but Cliff was way too ahead. They cannot keep up with Cliff anymore. They will have a hard time for another reason. Cliff decided to simply keep on running without stopping. And this is a very effective strategy all throughout the race. And this is why Cliff, in my opinion, is one strong athlete. He wasn't fast. Keep in mind, on the first day, everyone overtook him. But he's the guy that can keep on going. Regardless of his lead, it's still not an easy thing to do. Going going forward without sleeping or resting can be very, very, let's just say, dangerous. However, that doesn't mean he wasn't able to do it. Keep in mind, he's 61 years old, but he has some sort of training. Let's just say he can go on for days trying to find a lost sheep. He sometimes have to do this because, let's just say, every head of sheep is an investment. He has to find them before a storm arrives. And just like the good shepherd, he can simply take them back home. He may not be the fastest, but his endurance, it makes him one of the elites. While the other athletes need to rest, he can actually go on without resting. Now, of course, he's still a human, he's mortal. Sometimes he rests a little, but it's not exactly a good 6 hour sleep. By doing the same task every now and then in his potato farm, chasing sheeps and livestock, he's actually well prepared. So it's not like as if he's a reckless person by just jumping into things. He's well prepared for this. By doing things over and over again, he actually prepared his body in order to forego sleep. And not to mention, when he does something like this, he's not trying to exhaust himself. He's still real prepped up after doing the work. This might be a good or better workout strategy to those that are trying to exercise. No need to overexert yourself, just do those tiny exercises without exhausting yourself. And by doing so, you will exercise more and you're going to be more consistent. Our hero actually gained a lot of fans and admirers. People are actually cheering at the side of the road. When they see him, they actually give their best hurrah. Some of them even ran alongside him, simply chanting, "Go Cliff! Go Cliff!" Sometimes they will refer to him as "Go Cliffy! Go Cliffy!" since it's actually his nickname. At that point in time, Cliff Young isn't just a potato farmer or a sheep herder. He elevated the everyday man, and he's the hero of the day. Try to imagine that just a regular guy starting to win a marathon. Now that's something to behold. Cliff Young did not just finish the race, he won it. And he didn't just win, he actually broke the record of the previous year. He finished the race at exactly 5 days, 15 hours, and 4 minutes. That's quite a feat. The second place actually took 10 hours later to finish. He was awarded 10,000 Australian dollars. Now keep in mind, he wasn't even aware that there's a prize money. And when he got the money, he felt bad to the other contenders. He gave some of the money to the ones that finished. He kept $3,000 for himself, and he had a deal with one of the contenders. That's Mr. Joe Record. He gave him $3,000. Let's just say they agreed to split the money 50-50 if one of them wins. And when he did. Later on, experts decided to analyze the way he runs. He was simply shuffling his feet with arms low to the waist, and they realized it's conserving energy. It's called the Young Shuffle. It's used by ultramarathoners and it's still being used today. And that's the story of Cliff Young. And this is why he's my favorite athlete of all time. He's not the superhuman elite athlete, he's just the everyday man. And thanks for listening.